All right. Years in banking in Canada to the founder of a crypto hardware solution. So I'm curious, how did this transition even happen?
Well, actually, it all started in 2017, right? When I started, getting into the crypto world, understanding how it works, trying a lot of things. And with time, as you get deeper into the technology and you start seeing the value of it, while being in the traditional finance is about, if you want, the industry, you start seeing the real value and how eventually forward, like looking forward, it's going to be like quite a big disruptor. And as you use it, you see also the needs that you have as a user. And whenever you don't see eventually in the market a solution to what you're looking for, you see an opportunity. So fast forward a few years, I was still in Canada working in asset management, and I was like, I need to store my access to my wallet, which is basically what we call a seed phrase or a backup phrase. It's a 12 to 24 words password that allows you to access your wallet. So in order to store that 12 to 24 words, these 12 to 24 words, you need to be very careful because if lost or stolen, there is no way to recover it. So as I did my research, I saw that whatever was available in the market was not to my liking. And I thought that, you know what, why not create your own product? So after a while, COVID happened and a lot of things come to mind. And I decided to go back to Lebanon for personal reasons and eventually also to start my own startup, VaultKey. And here we are today.
I want to go a bit more in depth into the products. So
Mhm.
there are a bunch of hardware wallets in the
Right.
market. Can you explain to us what you do exactly and how you position yourself compared to these gigantic company?
Sure. Actually, hardware wallets and software wallets would need my product. Like VaultKey is not only for hardware wallets that rely on these, I would say, electronic hardwares that store the key to your wallet. Because even if you lose those little pieces, those little electronic hardware pieces, you still need to be able to recover your wallet. So you always go back to what we call the seed phrase. So let me rephrase that. As I said at the beginning, whenever you open a wallet that is completely decentralized, so you're bypassing intermediaries. In other sense, or in other meaning, if you lose access to that wallet, there is no one that can eventually reset your password or give you access in some way. There is no call center, nothing, right? Because there is no intermediaries. So you are holding your own wealth in cryptos in self custody, your own custody rather than third party custody. So with another bank or institution. The moment you want to do that, you want to do it, it's a responsibility. You want to do it in the most secure way. And putting those 12 to 24 words that constitute your backup phrase or the key to your wallet, you need to do it in a very safe way, not on a piece of paper that could be eventually discarded by mistake, or like, you could spill on it water, or if there is a fire, it could be destroyed. So you want to make sure that nothing can eventually destroy it. And VaultKey is basically a product that is made of 3 or 4 grade stainless steel that does not eventually rust, that is fireproof, rustproof, hackproof because there is no electronics in it, so nobody can hack it, right? And it allows you to eventually keep that seed phrase or backup phrase for generations to come because it's a piece of stainless steel that is that remains for the long term. Now, as you said, there are certain products that could be competitors or alternatives. But what we did is basically look at every angle that would allow us to identify certain risks. Like I'm going to give you an example. Yes, there are other products that are fireproof, waterproof, and hackproof or rustproof. But I would say that we are the only product that doesn't have the brand on the product itself. So whenever you look at the piece of stainless steel, it's unmarked. Although anyone would want to have their brand on a piece of product because it's a free reminder of the brand, and it could be even advertising. But what we did is basically remove this brand on the product itself so that if it's found, nobody would understand eventually what it is. You would only find in it a bunch of letters, not knowing what its purpose is, right? And if you had the brand on it, you could go Google it and eventually know that it's the key of a wallet. The second thing that we did is that we provided in the product, in the box, two pieces of stainless steel so that you could split your seed phrase or backup phrase. So instead of having, 12 words on one piece of stainless steel, and this is the whole seed phrase, you would split it in two. And you have two halves that you would put in two different places. So if one is stolen, whoever stole it will not have access to your product, to your wallet, I mean, right? There are many other, features that we incorporated in the product so that it has the maximum security available for such a design. Now, one last thing as well to mention is that we worked also on the aesthetics. And the design is basically a physical blockchain. So it's a chain of blocks. Now, if you go on the VaultKey.com website, you would see a video. So it would allow you to better see like how the product is and everything. So the video starts with what is basically a digital blockchain. It's a chain of blocks, squares. And then there is a transition to the product itself, which is also a chain of blocks. So it reminds us of the ultimate use of it, which is the blockchain and the security on the blockchain of your wallet. That's in a nutshell.
I mean, thank you for the very, very detailed and enlightening breakdown because now it's very clear. Because essentially in crypto, you have this password, let's call it that. And whoever has this password has the key to your bank. And the physical bank, whether it's a hardware wallet or not, doesn't matter. As long as you have the key, you can just access it. You can buy another wallet and access it with that same key. So the most
Exactly.
important part of crypto is safeguarding this key. So what
You
you
said,
offer is something that is fireproof, hackproof. It's something super secure, and it's made of steel, so it's not gonna go anywhere. And my question to you is, your success is highly correlated to the adoption of crypto in the market.
right.
So do you feel like, especially in a region like Lebanon, where people's money have been decimated because of bad fiscal policy, do you feel like people will eventually start trusting crypto? Or is it still that shady industry that is unsafe? Like, let's talk about the region specifically. Do you think that it's
Right.
heading into that direction?
Look, there is definitely a stigma. And there is definitely this perception that, I can't touch it, I can hold it, it might be thin air. I don't trust it. I'm afraid to put money in it. It's very volatile. But you have all these misconceptions. In some ways, they might be true because you also have, fraudulent, activities and people trying to just benefit from this hype. But the thing in itself, once understood, you can use it with the utmost, security and safety while benefiting of its added value, right? So I would say that today people are mostly wired to think about crypto as getting rich quickly kind of vehicle. This is why that personally, I am a Bitcoin person and I focus on Bitcoin. I even developed a whole course around Bitcoin to eventually explain to people what it is exactly, like the security and the technology part of it, how it relates to economics and money, and how it relates eventually to finance and our day-to-day activities, exchanging goods, trading, or doing trades. So it requires a lot of education, if I may say, and awareness. So I think we're still in the process of creating that awareness. We're still not there yet. So even people who are already very well invested in cryptos and Bitcoin specifically do not have necessarily enough understanding of the technology. And they oftentimes make certain mistakes that are, quite painful. I'm going to give you a quick example. Excuse me. Not long ago, when you had the LA fires, there is a gentleman who talked on behalf of a friend of his who was apparently decimated, unfortunately. He used to hold 100 Bitcoin in a wallet. So he had on a piece of hardware wallet, so the electronic thing, the key to that wallet, and on a piece of paper. And it was at home in LA. Now, obviously, the piece of electronics got burned and the paper as well. So that person lost 100 Bitcoin. So
Can we
more
just put that into context? Like, how much would that be worth?
$10 million. So you know what? Investing in a vault key, if I may call it an investment, is so cheap compared to what you get in return, peace of mind, right? So that aside, that person probably did not really realize the extent of the risk he was taking while not securing really well his seed phrase or backup phrase, right? So this is the lack of awareness I'm talking about. And although the person had already $10 million in Bitcoin, so we would assume that probably that person would have already extensive knowledge and be well prepared, but it was not the case. So we still need a lot of awareness creation, and I think it's going down that path quite quickly because, like as you know, the more more and more we're hearing on TV, on the news, on Bloomberg, and everything like a lot about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. Even the Trump family, they're doing a lot with regards to this. They're leading the way. They want to make the US like the Bitcoin capital of the world. So there is a lot of work being done there, and curiosity is starting to become more and more important or out there. So yes, definitely, we still need a lot of awareness creation to do, but we're getting there.
If you're serious about crypto, you should be serious about protecting your crypto as well.
That's what I say.
George, I love your optimism, and I'll tell you what, I will definitely be looking into VaultKey because for years I've been thinking where would be the best place to hide a seed phrase. But you're right. I mean, if it burns down, if it gets wet, if anything happens, it's just gone.
Right,
So might as well invest in a long-term solution, something
right,
that can withstand everything else, because the
right,
value of it compared to the loss, I mean, it's it's very clear. George,
right.
thank you so much for doing this. It was super interesting,
It's a pleasure.
and I really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.